Hello everyone, and welcome back to the inn. Let's not waste any time, let's get right into the cards. Starting with Hagatha the Witch. She is the only hero card that will be printed this set. So, of course, as you can see, she's a shaman card. Her battle cry is she deals 3 damage to all minions, and her passive ability is when you play a minion, you get a random shaman spell to your hand. Alright, so battle cry, really good for control. Overall, like, I can see some decent spells coming from Hagatha, just from the stuff that we have out to us right now. But I need to see more before I go, alright, yeah, she's really good. Or, like, she's complete and utter garbage. She's not the where they freaked out and went OP, that's for damn sure. So, if anything, I passed the bulb.
Oh, absolutely not. To be fair, my evaluation of this card has changed several times, but that's because when they did the announcement video, or the announcement stream, I only was catching, I didn't get any sound or whatever, and I kind of caught a glimpse of it. Like I didn't even watch the stream, as I pretty much glanced at the cards before I left to go home from work. So I got a quick glance. So my evaluation of the card changed several times depending on what my understanding of the card was. Like, I'm trying to remember what I originally thought it was. Let's see, I think I originally thought it was... Oh, sorry for the bump there.
That you got a spell like every turn.
No, I think initially what I thought it was is that it dealt so much damage and it dealt all that damage, and that you actually had to spend the hero power. Like you had to spend 2 to get a spell, whatnot. And I thought that was bad. But then I was thinking about going, maybe it's an automatic. It's not, you don't have to spend it. In which case you get like a random shaman spell in your hand every turn. I'm going, actually that would be kind of good. I figured that would qualify for the OP-ness that they screamed about, because deal 3 damage to all minions gets rid of them, pretty much gets rid of the minions on your side of the field. And I guess that depends on what kind of deck you're playing. And really, I guess if you want that hero power and if you want that battle cry and you really want to be going for a hero power that is going to be getting you random shaman spells. Shaman spells in general are not that great. We talked about when we compared Witcher's Apprentice to Battling Book. We talked about how the shaman spell pool is much worse than the mage spell pool. And you have to consider all that shaman spells aren't that great generally if you're wanting to get random spells, especially since a lot of them are going to be having an overload effect. However, if you're running a control deck, that might not be bad. So a control deck where you basically have a board clear as a battle cry, and then you have a hero power that automatically gives you a random shaman spell each turn, which will allow you to just control the board, that would actually be OP. That would actually be very good. And then I got home, and I actually sat down and properly read the card. The 8 mana for cost is not that bad. Again, deal 3 damage to all minions, which suggests you do not want to be playing this in a minion-based deck. But Bewitch says that you only get the random shaman spell to your hand after you play a minion, which means in order to get the random spells, you have to be playing a minion-based deck, which goes against the hero power, which goes against the battle cry. So the battle cry says one thing, the hero power says something completely different. So you don't want to be playing this really in a control-based deck. You don't want to be playing this in a minion-based deck. There's really no place to play this, because the battle cry fights against your minion-based decks, and the hero power fights against your control-based decks. It just doesn't work, because with your hero power, if you want to be controlling, like your battle cry, you want to be playing a lot of spells and not as many minions. But if you want to be getting the most out of the hero power, you have to be playing a lot of minions and not so many spells. It just doesn't work. So, yeah, this card is not OP. This card actually sucks. I can't really see any sort of deck playing this, because this isn't just when you summon. Like, if it was whenever you summon a minion at a random shaman spell, you might be able to get away with that because there are spells that will allow you to summon minions, or maybe you would get a trigger from something like, oh, I don't know, any of the evolves. Or, you know, I don't know. There'd be a lot of ways in that sense for you to maybe get random shaman spells, but by playing a minion, it's just not going to work.
Now, here's the thing that kind of crossed my mind, because of discussing it with someone else. Like, you could potentially think about having Hagatha and the Thrall Death Knight in the deck together.
Potentially, but I think in that case, I don't know. They kind of work on two completely different levels and playstyles. Like, I considered it like if I considered it if you were doing like if it was giving you a random shaman spell every turn, that you would play Thrall Death Seer earlier in the match to basically evolve and just get a very good board. Then you could use the Battle Cry to wipe everything except for your own minions, which have been evolved by this point, and then you're just getting extra spells to just keep on going and sustaining. But it doesn't really work that way. And evolved decks, which Thrall wants to go in, are very heavily minion focused, which means you're probably again going to damage or wipe out your own board. Now, maybe you have a big enough board where that doesn't matter, but again, you want to be constantly evolving, getting bigger things going. And given that Shaman doesn't has lost a majority of its evolve effects, all that's left are Unstable Evolution and the Death Knight, unless they give us another evolve effect, which I doubt. In that case, you have very few evolve effects left, and to get rid of your one constant evolve trigger, to get Hagatha, where we have to play a minion to get a random shaman spell, which might not play to your end game, that's not good.
Or you could play Hagatha first, then play the Death Knight.
Hagatha first is even worse, because if you play Thrall first, you have a chance of maybe getting a big enough board, or a beefy enough board to withstand the Battle Cry. If you play Hagatha first, you just wiped your board out, and there's nothing you can do about it. Good job. It's those two, given the hero powers and the playstyles that they represent, they do not mesh well together. Now, if the Bewitch hero power had actually would actually have given you a random shaman spell every turn, that would have been something different, and I think that would have actually justified their yelling of OP, and I don't think that it would have been completely broken or OP that way, because you'd want to be playing it more at a control shell because of the Battle Cry. Then again, I probably am completely wrong there, but it's just the way this is set up. The Battle Cry is telling you do not want to play a minion-based deck, but the hero power is. And like I said, what Hagatha as a hero wants to do, and what Thrall Deathseer as a hero wants to do, are completely at odds with each other. So I don't think you slam both into a deck, because it's really not going to help you deliver a coherent deck that's actually going to get you to whatever your win con is. You either want to make a big beefy board of minions you just evolve and get stronger, in which case you don't care a whole lot about their board, because you can just have a few spells to wipe it and you just go face. Or you're going to have Hagatha, where with the Battle Cry you want to wipe the board and you want to get random spells, but what's your end game with the minions there? Because you have to have enough minions to basically get spells with Bewitch, but if you make it too minion focused, your hero is going to completely act against the interest of your minions. So it just doesn't work.
Well, really, it's a good thing we got Echo cards.
Yeah, but it's not going to help you in the long run, though. If the purpose of, here's the question that needs to be asked, that needs to be answered for Hagatha. What type of deck does it go in, and watch your end game. Because normally, the heroes, if you are including a hero card, that represents what your end game and what the goal of your deck is. Thrall is an evolved deck. Jaina wants to basically sustain with basically picking things off, creating elementals, or putting elementals on the board, and just sustaining for the long term. Each of these heroes represent a type of playstyle in endgame. And Hagatha has a battle cry that says, I don't want minions, but a hero power that says, I want minions. I don't see a deck that works. I don't see a deck where I look at Hagatha and says, this is the playstyle of the deck, and this is what my endgame is. Hagatha is this completely spaced out hero. Spaced out is not the right word. It's completely out there. I don't know what deck this fits in.
I guess at that point we had to just move on to the next card then shouldn't we?
Yeah. So next up we have Muck Hunter. It's a 5-cost 5/8 with Rush. Battlecry, summon 2 2/1 Mucklings for your opponent. I actually think this is pretty strong. The 2/1s aren't that big a deal. There are multiple ways you can get rid of those 2/1s. And Muck Hunter allows you to basically get rid of a minion in the mid game. It has a big, beefy body, and this fits in. I think you can put this into a Baku deck. You can fit this into a deck that wants to rely on the big, beefy body. There's something I have in mind that's coming up later. But in general, I just think this is good. It's pretty much going to be able to take something out of the mid game and still be standing. And like I said, there are so many different ways to take out those 2/1 Mucklings that they're not even a big deal. You can even use smaller minions to get rid of the Mucklings, so that way Muck Hunter just presents a much larger threat. I think this card sees play.
Well, yeah, I mean, if anything, it's a much bigger, as far as health goes, Leroy, without having to go active face. Excuse me. Plus, you get to be able to drop those 2/1 little buggers on your opponent's side of the board. And if you really want to, you can run Mind Control Tech and then just yank one of your opponent's minions, just because. So, not only is it strong, but it sees play. Definitely. Next up, we get to go into Redband Wasp. 2-cost, 1/3 Warrior Beast, Rush, and it has +3 attack while damaged. I think this is really good. You combo it with Animated Berserker, you get a 4/2 that's got Rush, or you just ping off a 1/1 and it's a 4/2. And it just sits there and just goes, alright, I'm pretty big, I'm pretty powerful. What are you going to do now? Bob?
And this could be used to potentially get rid of something small on turn 2. But then it's almost assuredly going to die. It's not going to be enough. It's not going to be able to use that then swing that 4 damage to face the next turn. At most, you might be able to use this against like Hunter or something, or somebody that has like a 1 health minion. But I'm also thinking about 1 or 2 cost minions that have 1 health that there really aren't a lot that people actively play, except for like Hunter. And the fact that it's probably after you get rid of something, probably going to get wiped out, and even if you are not able to rush it into another minion, it's a 1/3 on the board for 2. In Arena, this could be good, but in Standard, I just don't think it's good enough. I compare it to something like Militia Commander, which is just... it's just going to get rid of something and still be on the board and still be a threat. Well, maybe not even a threat, but this one is only a threat after you use its rush ability to get rid of something on the board, but there aren't a lot of things that really have the 1 attack that will basically make it a huge threat. That will make it a huge threat most of the time. Even if it wipes something out, your opponent just looks at it and will have an answer to just get rid of it. I don't think it's good enough.
Fair enough.
Next up, we have Lord Godfrey. Lord Godfrey is a 7-cost Warlock legendary. 4 attack, 4 health with a battle cry. Deal 2 damage to all other minions. If any die, repeat this battle cry. Well, we heard you like Defile, so let's put some Defile into your minion, and basically have it be the only thing left. Yeah. Is it just me, Eddie, or are all of the Warlock legendaries extremely powerful?
It ain't just you.
This card sees play. I don't think it sees play in a Zoo-lock deck, but I definitely think it sees play in a controlling Warlock deck, a deck that doesn't really mind just using the ability just to wipe the board. And they have ways to just do this. So, yeah, I think Lord Godfrey sees plays because even if it wipes out the entire board, you now have wiped out the board and you have 4/4 on your field. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a potential meta definer.
You think it's potential? My good sir, I believe it is a meta definer.
Well, I don't. The thing is, if I said like it's a meta definer, then it just ends up not being as good. So I think it will be a meta definer, and I'm going, this is gonna be a meta definer, but I'm going. I've seen stupid stuff happen before.
Oh, if anything, this is up there. This is right up there. I mean, it's Defile superside. So, I mean, come on. There's no way that it won't be. So if anything, next up we have Hunting Mastif. 2 cost, 2/1 beast. Echo, Rush, Hunter Minion. Definitely sees play. Definitely is a good card. And if anything, I have to thank Firebat, because on the recent Omni Stone, he gave a good combo of Hunting Mastiff and Stampede. So, there you go. This one definitely sees play, no doubt. Well,
yeah, I can see it seeing play as far as, some of the combos you mentioned. It can help combo off of if you have a Scavenging Hyena on the board, help clear the board a little bit, or just put a whole bunch of Hunting Mastiffs down. And it provides a big threat even if you don't take advantage of the rush. But I'm also thinking, does Hunter really care about rush? A more mid-range Hunter, I think, does, but a regular aggressive type Hunter deck, which is what Hunter tends to be, I'm not sure how much they really care about this card. Just going to be completely honest. I think that if they're going to go for the charging or for eliminating threats on the board, they'll probably go with Release the Hounds in conjunction with Scavenging Hyena rather than Hunting Mastiff. I think Hunting Mastiff is more of a card for a controlling or mid-range Hunter, not an aggressive Hunter, which are most of your decks. So I think that this sees play, but it's going to be niche.
okay.
Next up, we have Forest Guide. It's a 4-cost 1/6 Druid minion. That minion with the effect, at the end of your turn, both players draw a card. Okay. The stats are bad. The effect, given that there are multiple ways for Druid to actually draw cards, that they're still in Standard, and I expect to stay in Standard. What's the point of this minion? A lot of people are going to go, oh, Hand Druid. Alright, okie dokie. Is that really what we're going with? I don't think that's going to be a big deck. I don't think it's going to be a meta deck. Maybe if you're going that way, maybe you play Forest Guide, but I'm just looking at the drawback of Forest Guide, that you're giving your opponent more of an advantage because they're going to be able to play their card before theirs. You're giving them card advantage, and you're just giving them every single advantage, and you're probably playing this in a deck where you're now going to be risking going to fatigue early. You're going to be risking milling yourself. I think the downside of this card is too great. I think this is a bad card.
I think if anything, we're just 1 or 2 cards off of Hand Druid being a thing. You're just 1 or 2 cards away from it. So it's just like, I mean, it's a 1/6. Like, if you're looking across the board at, like, the Warlock that's always trying to keep a nice sizable hand, milling them is going to be hilarious. But against your aggro decks, you don't want to feed them. So, if anything, I'm gonna put it right now in my floating section / area, because like the rest of the Druid stuff hasn't came out yet, and it's just like we're 1 or 2 cards away from having Hand Druid be an archetype. And so I'm just like, if it happens, I'm gonna laugh. But for me, I'm going to go ahead and scoot over to Wanted. 4-cost Rogue Epic. Deal 3 damage to a minion. If that kills it, you add a coin to your hand. Decent spell. Being able to get a coin to your hand, decent. If you're able to get a spell damage minion to stick to board, you increase the damage of Wanted. And those coins can just start doing combos and things like that you would want to do with rogues, so I think it sees play somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. Ballerino.
Yeah, I think this is a good spell. It's similar to I forget what the name is. What was the last spell in last set? It's similar to Flanking Strike. I mean, yes, you have to, in order to get the bonus, you have to use it to kill a minion. But with Rogue, I don't think that's going to be that difficult, because there are ways for you to do so. And I think this fits more into and this is going to sound me like a no-dub, but this fits more into like a Miracle type build, where you want to get those coins for Rogue. Basically, any Rogue deck where you are relying on combo cards and just creating a lot of these pieces and you playing a bunch of cards per turn to get value. This is the type of spell. This is where you want to be placing the spell so you can get additional coins. So yeah, I do think it sees play. I don't think it's as bad as some people are saying. I think the power level is about right where it needs to be, and I think that it's going to see play. Next up, we have Scaleworm, which is a 4-cost 4/4 beast with the battle cry, if you're holding a dragon, gain +1 attack and rush. Not bad. Does this see play in standard decks? I don't think that they will, unless we see some more menagerie-like mechanics, which I don't think is going to be the case. I don't see you placing this in like a dragon deck or placing this in a deck where everything's together. The Curator and all the Menagerie cards are rotating out. So in Standard, I don't think this is going to see a lot of play. I don't see you putting this in a Dragon deck. And outside of a Dragon deck, I don't think it goes into a regular deck. So in Standard, I think this is dead in the water. I'm not sure if you see a lot of play in Arena. But in Wild, this is pretty interesting. I think that we're actually getting some pieces now to make a potentially really interesting Wild Curator deck. Because now we're seeing things where these cards are interacting with where you have cards of one tribe interacting with cards of another tribe, which is really what Curator decks kind of want to do. Scaleworm would be perfect in that deck, because you're almost guaranteed to have dragons, so it's going to be a 5/4 rush, which is going to allow you to control the board a little bit and just have this big beastie on the field, and you're always going to have Menagerie buff targets. I think in Wild, this could be very interesting to play around with. Actually, for the first time, I'm considering what a Curator deck or what a Menagerie deck could look like, because before, Menagerie decks really weren't a thing, and Curator was used just to grab a couple of minions that you placed in your deck just so you could have the body and could make you see the effect. Actually having minions that benefit from these type of effects, and that actually synergize with the different tribes. Beasts synergizing with dragons, maybe Murloc synergizing with dragons or beasts. Basically, all three of them being able to synergize together. That's really interesting. I'm really interested to see if they throw any more minions in like that have different tribal synergies than what they're a part of, and see if there's a potential deck there that could basically come out of left field.
I can certainly agree to that. As far as the standard side things go, I'm just looking at this going, you had to figure out what sort of things you're going to do with it. Like, sure, you can use Amalgam to be able to make this thing trigger, but at the same time, it's like... So, Wild would probably more or less see play. Arena, it's a solid arena pick, because you're getting a 4-cost 4/4. Woohoo! So, that's where I could potentially see that going. I'm looking at Vex Crow next, because it's a 4-cost 3/3 beast in Mage. And whenever you cast a spell, you summon a random 2-cost minion. And I'm not the biggest fan of it. Because, like, your 2-cost minions are... I mean, the whole rolling a potential Doomsayer, that's bad. So, if anything, I'm not playing Vex Crow in my deck. So, Bulb, I'm gonna throw this one to you.
The end is coming! Yeah. Here's the thing. When Paladin Shredder was powerful, it was powerful because its stat line was kind of overwhelming and was kind of more powerful than what we were used to for a 4-drop. It was just very solid in stat-wise, and you rolled the dice if it killed and if it was killed and hoped that the 1 in whatever chance of it rolling Doomsayer didn't come to bite you in the butt. Now there are a lot of 2-cost minions that you're going, whew, but you have to always worry about the potential Doomsayer. But it was a one-time riff. You know, you're willing to take the chance with the Death Rattle. With Vex Crow, it's every single time you cast a spell. Maybe, and this is a big maybe Tempo Mage thinks about it just to get more bodies on the board. But they are also tempting that Doomsayer very highly, and that will probably bite them in the butt. I don't know if they go for it, but if any Mage deck would go for it, it would be Tempo Mage. Other than that, no. The big question for me was, I looked at it and go, do I put this in my Randomonium deck? And again, the answer is no. Absolutely not.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to get effects in that deck that basically when I cast a spell, that I get a minion of about the same mana cost. Not a 2-cost minion. I take a chance every single time I cast a 2-cost spell in that deck. But it's controlled because I know what I'm doing. I don't want to have to worry about every single time I cast a spell that it could wipe my board. So, no! This is a bad card. And like I said, I can see it maybe being played in like a Tempo Mage deck, but this is a very big maybe. This is, I think, the potential downside of Doomsayer is just too big for it to see any sort of standard play. So next up, we have Blackwald Pixie. Blackwald Pixie is a 3-cost 3/4 with the battle cry of Refresh Your Hero Power. The stat line is okay. So really, with it not being anything out of the ordinary, I think we really need to look at the battle cry. If you have a deck that's really focused on hero power usage, maybe this sees play, but I just don't know. I just don't think it does. Personally, historically, hero power based cards, unless they are a big boon and a big help to what your hero power does or what your in-game is, don't see a lot of play. Potentially, if this sees play, it might see play in like where you're trying to get the Paladin OTK off, maybe. but that's not as reliable as crap. Where'd my mind go? That's not as reliable as Beardo was, and I'm not sure if those decks try that. Maybe if this finds a home anywhere, maybe it finds it there. But then again, we're talking about niche decks here. I think because of the Battlecry, I don't think the stat line is that great outside of Battlecry, and I don't think the Battlecry is that good for it to see regular play. I just don't think this is going to see a lot of play.
My good sir, I do believe this sees play. And I can say that with confidence because it'll be on the, of course, standard side of things. Because I take a look at it in tandem with the next card that I know that we're getting ready to discuss as well. So I'm going to put these two next to each other with Clockwork Automation. 5 cost 4/4 mech, double the damage of your healing, double the damage and the healing of your hero power. So if anything, I'm going to go back to Bulb's card real quick. If you're going to want to do this and do it in a crazy way, you can go, I play Baku Warrior. I tap, play this card, tap, or I have Clockwork Automaton on the board, already set up and ready to go. Tap, play that, tap, and then just keep getting uses out of that hero power. I think it is useful in those tandem kind of combo styles. Now, also, if anything, with Clockwork Automaton, I definitely think it does see play because of doing the double damage with your hero power. You're able to get 6 damage on a minion and 12 healing from the Warlock Death Knight. You're able to do 16 damage with the Warrior Ragnaros tap hero power. You're able to go back to doing double damage with the Priest Death Knight, and of course, if anything, if you're running like Baku or whatever, alongside with this, you're able to do 6 damage with Hunter hero power and all this good jazz. So it's just you're able to just get in there and just do double and just potentially blow your opponent out of the water with this thing. So I think, if anything, with the two in tandem, they will see play in a deck somewhere. But I think also on standalones, they can also function. So that's my double card review in a nutshell.
I agree with you that Clockwork Automaton sees play. Mainly because it is... it's,
really good.
Brain, why?
Prophet Velen?
Prophet Velen. It's a Prophet Velen. But here's the thing. You're looking at these golden scenarios that you have to do a ton of setup for, because you're talking about Baku Warrior. What you're actually saying is Baku Taunt Warrior, because unless you have the Ragnaros hero power, your Clockwork Automaton is completely useless. And even then, you have to have Clockwork Automaton out a turn before Blackwald Pixie, because the two of them together is 8 mana. You are not refreshing your hero power if you only have enough mana to cast it once.
Yep.
And here's the thing: if you have to put Clockwork Automaton out the turn before, number one, if you're in Baku Taunt Warrior, you really don't need Blackwald Pixie. You're pumping out 16 damage through your hero power. But even then, you're still assuming that Clockwork Automaton will survive a turn for you to play Blackwald Pixie. And if you're including Clockwork Automatons and Blackwald Pixies, and you're probably including two of each in your deck, that's 4 slots in your deck for a potential endgame strategy, and you need taunts in your deck.
Hmm?
Odd taunts. Most of them probably costing at least 5 mana that you need to play a lot of in order to even get to that hero power. Already, you have clogged up 4 slots for this potential endgame scenario that you're hoping hits face if your opponent doesn't kill off the Clockwork Automaton or kill you first. There is so much going wrong in that scenario that it's better for you to maybe include the Clockwork Automaton and get rid of the Blackwald Pixie just to have the 16 damage later, if you even include the Clockwork Automaton at all, because 8 damage is good enough.
You know what the best part is?
Hmm?
Is I've already taken a blueprint of the deck and started building it. And if anything, it's not the 5 cost that I'm really sitting there worried about. I'm more or less looking at my 3 cost slots and going, what am I going to do here? Because I have my shield draw. I have, of course, the Stonehill Defender. I have my Acolyte of Pains. I have my the Reckless Fury that destroys all my armor and blows the board apart. So I've got those in mind already, plus Whirlwind effects, and then potentially throwing in Molten Blades, because hey, looky there, different shifting weapons.
You're trying to do so much there, and that's the problem, is you're going like Blackwald Pixie going, I have this magical scenario in mind, but you have so much that you're trying to cram pack into your deck that you're diluting the deck down, that you don't know what you're going to do, and Blackwald Pixie is just going to shoot you in the foot. Like I said, I'm looking at decks that want to use that hero power multiple times that basically don't have any other game plan that they need to be doing, which Baku Taunt Warrior wants to have. Like in your Paladin decks, if you have a Control Paladin or whatever, where you're basically your in-game is your Death Knight, maybe you can get it off there. Blackwald Pixie's not going to help you with an Anduin Death Knight. Gul'dan doesn't care. A lot of these other hero powers don't care, or at least don't care enough for Blackwald Pixie. They would care with Clockwork Automaton. Clockwork Automaton makes it potentially in so many other decks just because of its ability, where Blackwald Pixie does not. You could basically Clockwork Automaton can basically be used as an additional, an earlier way, or additional trigger, or whatever, for Anduin decks to just get more damage in. We've already talked about Gul'dan. Additional healing if that's where you're really going with Priest, but this is only for your healing power. Maybe Mage uses it. I mean, it has several uses, some niche uses to be for sure, and they won't make it into every single deck. But you have to think of it, if Clockwork Automaton won't make it into every single deck, but it will see play, then what hope does Blackwald Pixie have, where its only use is to refresh your hero power, and you have to then think, what decks really care that much about hero powers? Well, maybe a deck with Anduin, but Anduin has a way to already refresh its hero power. Paladin wants to do it. Gul'dan doesn't really care. Maybe Baku Taunt Warrior, but again, Baku Taunt Warrior already has some sustainability issues and is already so focused on getting its taunts going to get to the hero power that I just don't think that by that point in the game it really cares about Blackwald Pixie. Blackwald Pixie just doesn't have a use. If this was an Inspire mana, if we still had Inspire cards, maybe. But there's no use right now in the game for Blackwald Pixie. And if you are trying to come up with a magical use for this one in a million scenario, you're probably building your deck wrong, and you are probably never going to see that magic scenario where Blackwald Pixie will be useful, and it's going to backfire and shoot you in the foot 9 times out of 10.
I'll have to wait and see after this set releases to see how well it works.
We'll have to see. I have a feeling this is going to be another Scorpomatic.
Well, to you, maybe.
Anyway, up next we have Coffin Crasher. Coffin Crasher is a 6-cost, 6/5 priest minion with the Death Rattle. Summon a Death Rattle minion from your hand. I actually think this card is good. The stat line is good. It's 6-cost, 6/5. It's similar to Bone Drake. It's just very beefy. It contests the board very nicely. It has a Death Rattle that's just going to allow you to proc a Death Rattle, probably, hopefully, a more powerful Death Rattle out on the field. But that's still a Death Rattle you did not have to pay for. And if you're playing a Quest Priest or any sort of Death Rattle Priest, this kind of works to your advantage. The dream scenario here is for it to grab an obsidian statue and place it on your side of the field when it dies, so now that they have to get through the obsidian statue. But even if you don't achieve the dream scenario, and yes, we don't have N'Zoth or anything like that, but even if you don't achieve the dream scenario, Coffin Crasher is just, stat-wise, so very good that, you know, it's going to contest the board, and it's going to be very scary on its own. So I do think this sees play. I really like this card. And I think it's going to be good enough where people are going to try to cheat out something like an Obsidian Statue or something, some other sort of beefy Death Rattle minion. And if a Death Rattle Priest deck is going to be a thing, I think Coffin Crasher actually finds a home there.
I agree that, you know, if you're trying to cheat out something like that, like Obsidian Statue, yes. I more or less see it in a quest priest style sort of thing. Because, hey, death battles are really nice. But again, that's just me. I am, if anything, gonna boost Scooty Boogie over to Darius Crowley. 5-cost 4/4 Warrior Legendary with Rush. After this attacks and kills a minion, gain +2/+2. It's alright. Being able to potentially whack a monster and then basically become a boogie monster, where I just gained a +2/+2. Sure, why not? If anything, both.
He maybe uses the control of the board a little bit, but after taking care of 1 or 2 minions, it's not going to last very long, and it's not that impressive. I think Warrior just has better tools. I don't think this is going to see a lot of play, personally. Next up, we have Emeriss. Emeriss is a 10-cost 8/8 Hunter Legendary Dragon with the battle cry, double the attack and health of all minions in your hand. Alright. It's big, it's beefy, it's a dragon and Hunter. It doesn't really play with how Hunter wants to play because it's 10 cost. Hunter's really not going to be able to cheat it out in any way if they're doing like a big Hunter. And it doubles the attack and health of minions in your hand. What class did they think Hunter was again? I mean, just curious here, because this doesn't seem to play at all with any sort of identity that Hunter matches. I mean, maybe if you're playing with the Death Knight, maybe you have some minions in your hand, but are you really playing that late game with Hunter? I don't think this sees plays at all.
Gonna have to just look at this and go, yeah, I don't know what they were doing with this one. Like, Emeriss just, I mean, you could even try to make an argument for it for, Death Knight in Hunter. Like, oh, it doubles the attack and defense, and just, at the same time, it's, no, I can't make a defense for it at this point. So I go to Ravencaller.
because it's a 3-cost 2/1. In Battle Cry, you add 2 random 1-cost minions to your hand. If anything, I can see this going into a potential Zoolock, but dang it, that's me. And I can see this potentially going into Quest Hunter to make it more viable and more active and useful. So if anything, Bulb the Dream might not be dead completely. You just may have to put it on life support for a good bit and just wait about, I don't know, 3 expansions in a rotation to see if this actively works. So if anything, I put this Bulb into your court now.
The stat line is horrible. Generally, you don't care about 1-cost minions. I mean, I guess I don't think it sees play in Zoolock. There's no way it sees play in Zoolock. Maybe you're right about Quest Hunter, but I think that's a big maybe. We'll have to see how things kind of progress there. But in general, maybe in Arena, but in general, I just don't think that, except for a few niche cases, this is going to see a lot of play. Next up, we have Sound the Bells. It's a 2-cost Paladin spell with Echo. Give a minion +1/+2. Maybe in a buffing type deck this works. Maybe. I'm not as... Just my gut feeling on this is I'm just not as wild. Even though you can recast this several times, you're spending a lot of time and energy to recast it to buff things up +1/+2. Maybe, and I'm just thinking, I'm wondering, because I think that a lot of decks that this could go in already have cards that they want to be focusing on that they're not really going to care about Sound the Bells. This really doesn't work for... Well, this could work for, like, Galvadon.
Thank you!
Galvadon or Linessa. Because I was thinking about, stuff like, didn't want to do it. I think for your, like I said, your regular Paladin deck, this just doesn't work. I was trying to go, well, what Paladin decks are big on the buffing? I was like moving around going, yeah, I think this is going to go into like Galvadon, if Galvadon becomes a thing. I'm not sure it does. But if it does, it's probably going to be because Sound the Bells allows you to get to that quest trigger quicker than you normally would. So this is going to be, I guess, we just need to see if Quest Paladin actually rises to the forefront this expansion or not. If it does, it's going to be because of Sound the Bells. If it doesn't, then Sound the Bells is just going to die in obscurity.
If anything, I was sitting here as you were sitting here going, I'm wondering where this is going. My brain's just going, Galvadon, the Kaleidosauce. He's got Echo and a whole lot more. And I'm just like...
I was working my way to it.
I'm just like, waiting. You finally hit it. Because if anything, this plus like Vorax, and just going, alright, Vorax, you just keep eating these Sound the Bells. And then you basically get the bunny scene from, Wreck-It Ralph 2. So here you go, Sound the Bell, Sound the Bell, Sound the Bell, Sound the Bell.
Pop! Ah!
Yeah, if anything, that's where I see Sound the Bells going, is going in the Galvadon deck. And if anything, I want to see Kibler play it on stream because yes. I'm gonna go to Cheapshot because it's a 2-cost rogue echo spell that deals 2 damage to a minion. And if you just keep like flicking and pinging and flicking and pinging, hey, you could probably get that Edwin in your hand really big, or just have it as a combo trigger. This is good for early game clear. So if anything, Bulb, I throw it to you.
This has potential, I think, just mainly because of the Echo. 2 cost 2 damage to minion, not bad. The fact that you can cast this multiple times later on, you can get rid of something big, you can get rid of several small things. I think this has potential. I do think it probably does see play. I don't think it's a combo trigger, as you say, because of the Echo ability. The fact that it's 2 doesn't really play nicely with any of the other combo cards. But, you know, there's a lot that you can do with it, so I do think it can see play in a more controlling rogue.
Not to mention Miracle Rogue as well, because being able to just burn through your deck.
So, next up we have Blackhowl Gunspire. Blackhowl Gunspire is a 7-cost 3/8 warrior legendary. It can't attack, but whenever this minion takes damage, you deal 3 damage to a random enemy. I like it. I really do. Now the question is, does this see play in Standard? I don't know. If there's a warrior deck that is really whirlwind focused in Standard, I think this becomes a central part of it. If your enemy then silences it, you go ha, and then start attacking them in the face with it. The thing is, it's 3 damage to a random enemy. I know Eddie and I were talking about it briefly before, and he thought it was random minion. No. This can go face. So yeah, it can hit something on the board with like a minion, but it can also just shoot your opponent in the face for 3. Which is very, very exciting in my mind. And Warrior has a lot of whirlwind effects. Heck, they have an Echo whirlwind effect in Warpath. There are a lot of ways to trigger Blackhowl Gunspire, but I think in order for this to really be a standout card in Standard, it really needs to find the right deck, which means you need a lot more cards that get triggered by Whirlwind that can actually put together a solid deck in Standard. I'm not sure if we have it. We might. But if that kind of deck comes together, that's where it goes in Standard. This is just a big question of, does it have the support it needs to create the right kind of deck? And that's something that we should see if it will get answered or not. However, in Wild, this thing is nuts. Put this in a Patron Warrior deck, and watch your enemies start to cry. Patron Warrior deck already has multiple ways to just create whirlwind effects, because that's essentially what the deck thrives off of. And just the fact that anytime you whirlwind to basically put more patrons on the board, you're essentially also shooting something on your opponent's side of the field for 3 damage. And you can do this potentially up to 8 times if everything goes right. This is a very exciting card for me. I'm kind of interested to experiment. The only thing I'm kind of worried about, and I'm going to be taking a look at, is I'm wondering if this is too much, because I don't want to have too many cards on the high end for my patron deck in Wild. And I already have, I think, about 3 right now. And I just don't know whether Blackhowl Gunspire will be too much. This is something I'm going to experiment and look at in Wild, when the expansion hits. I actually think this is a lot better than people think it is. And for me, this is a very exciting card. I kind of want to mess around and play around with it.
Do you remember, if anything, the discussion, but as far as questioning whether it could hit the minion, I knew it could hit enemy, so I knew it could hit face. But I also remember the discussion of us making it into a potential cube deck, and just making multiple, like, Gunspires, and then just, filling the board, and then just saying, screw it, warpathing a whole bunch, and then just, watching these Gunspires just go off like crazy.
Or by that point in the game, you actually Scourge Lord Garrosh and you just hero power.
Yeah, I mean, you only do it once, but that's what I'm saying, Warpath. Just Warpath because of Echo. You clear the board and you shoot your enemies. So it's just...
I can't wait for people to get shot who call this a bad card. Cannon, boom! Cannon, boom! Cannon!
Exactly, that's why you make a cube-inspired Blackhowl Gunspire deck. Alongside, like, Face Manipulator, things like that. But, bleh. And if anything, as much as I hate it, because the next card that we're going to be discussing next time when we pick up is Lady in White. I wanted to discuss her, but
that is all the time we have for this week, or at least this episode. Definitely come back and see us on Wednesday, because we'll have more discussion and more cards to discuss about, and we'll pick up with Lady in White then. And I know we're getting closer and closer to the WitchWood release. So, if you like what you have here, just, give us a like, comment, and everything below, and we'll see you next time.